What's up everyone, today I want to talk about one of the most fun and chaotic barbarian builds in Diablo 4 Season 6, and it is a full Earthquake and Dust Devil build. This build can take on everything in Torment 4, it's super fast, it's got loads of AoE, and has a really cool trick with cooldown reduction so that all our abilities, including our ultimate, come off of cooldown in seconds. This is easily one of the most fun barbarian builds I've played this season and in Vessel of Hatred, and I want to share it with you all. So let's talk about it. So first of all, we have Earthquakes and these Dust Devils, these tornadoes that you see spinning around. That's where most of our damage is coming from. And we use multiple aspects to summon all of these tornadoes. We summon them from casting our shouts, using our whirlwind, and whenever we generate fury. On top of this, we can push this even further by using the Force of Nature Paragon Board. This means that our Earthquakes also summon Dust Devils. And by standing in our Earthquakes and by having more Earthquakes, we do even more damage. So everything just ramps up even more from that. And then we top all of this off with Ariat's Baron, the unique, which means every time we use our ultimate, Call of the Ancients, which we can literally do every few seconds, they will summon additional Earthquakes and Dust Devils for us as well. So all you got to do is spin around as a whirlwind and press all of your cooldowns, and everyone will summon something. I've only got basic gear, basic glyphs with this right now, and it's easily taken on Torment 4. So you can take this quite far, and if you like the idea of it, let's get into the build and go over it in more detail. Starting with the skill tree. Okay, so on the skill tree from the top, we want 2 points into a basic. I went for Lunging Strike. We don't use it. It doesn't go on our bar, but it unlocks our core skills. Then we go 5 points into Whirlwind. This is our main thing we'll be doing. Then you want to put 1 point into Enhanced for generating Fury while Whirlwinding. And then you need Furious. This is key. So the way we use the way we get our cooldown reduction is enemies need to be bleeding. And this is where we get that from. So you want to make sure you've got this, and you want to make sure you have a slashing one-hander. So that's key. Then you want to put 3 points into Pressure Point. This is a lucky hit heavy build, so this triggers vulnerable, so perfect. Then 3 points into Tempered Fury. We have a weapon that gives us more damage the more fury we have, so that's 9 more fury maximum. Okay, next section, Ground Stomp, 1 point there, 1 point into Enhanced to generate fury, and 1 point into Tactical to make enemies vulnerable. So now we've got 2 ways to make enemies vulnerable. This also drops an Earthquake when we use it, so it's really good for starting the fight. You jump in, you Ground Stomp, you drop an Earthquake, which gives you a damage boost, and you get your fury, so you can start whirlwinding. Then you can go 3 points into here for damage reduction, which is huge in a Torment 4 endgame build. Then we take all the shouts. So on the shouts, 1 point in them all. That's just from gear. It's only 1 point. So we go 1 point into rallying, and then we take enhanced, and then we take strategic to gain more fortify. Okay, on challenging shout, we enhance it, and then we take tactical, so we gain fury. And then finally on Warcry, 1 point again, we enhance it. And then we take Might to gain Fortify. It says 5, but that's just from gear. You only want 1 point in there. And the reason we're doing these with Fortify so often is for the cluster we have down here. This gives us increased damage when we have Fortify and increased damage reduction. So it's really good to get Fortify wherever we can get it. Torment 4 hits pretty hard, so that's what I would do. Down here as well, a lot of builds you will be focusing to put 3 points into Booming Voice. This gives you increased duration of your shouts. We don't need to do that in this build. So we just put 1 point in because we have such high cooldown reduction that you're pressing these every few seconds. So they're constantly up. We have 0 downtime on the shouts. So you only need 1 point in there to get to here. Your shouts cause enemies to deal less damage, which is perfect because 12% less damage for 5 seconds, but it's always up. So really, really good. 3 points into Swiftness for movement speed. And then we take the Berserking cluster here. 12% damage reduction while berserking. You're berserking all the time, constantly. 3 points into Prolific, so you gain Fury generation as well. And then we move down into this section. We don't take any abilities here, but we take a lot of passives. So at the top, 9% increased damage to close enemies and 6% damage reduction. And then 3 points here for 15% increased damage. And then down here, we want to take 1 point into Thick Skin to put 3 points into defensive stance and 3 points into counter offensive. This is just damage reduction and damage while fortified. You're fortified all the time because of all the stuff we took up there. So this is just perfect. I will say as well, when you're looking at your gear on your amulet, this is one to really go for. This is one to really try and get like a counter offensive stat on your amulet on your neck, because it's just a huge damage boost. You can get like 5 or 6 if you masterwork it, which gives you a massive damage boost. Okay, down to the final section, the ultimates. We go for Call of the Ancients. Now, if you don't like this ability, if you're not a fan of this ability, you can take Wrath of the Berserker. This build works very well with Berserking. We have the Berserking key passive. So if you want to skip this, that's fine. You just change out the unique pants that boost it. But yeah, I like this build. It works really well because of the unique, the bearing that we have. whenever we use this, we're getting earthquakes. I think the one Corlic will drop an earthquake and Talic will drop Dust Devils. So this is really, really, really good. 5 points in here for damage, 1 point into here for increased attack speed, and then 1 point into here for the extra fury, the slow, the stun, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think this is really good. And because of our cooldown reduction, we're casting it really fast. You're casting it like every few seconds. On the passives, 3 points into Duelist for 9% increased attack speed. This is a dual wielding build, so we use one-handers. So that's perfect. Down here, 3 points, 9% of your max life as healing for every 100% fury spent. That's good. We have a lot of fury, but you do take damage on this build. You are going to walk over things. There's a lot on the screen, so you are going to accidentally stand in the wrong thing. You're going to get poisoned, things like that. So that is really good to get that passive healing. And then finally, Berserker. The Berserker key passive, Unconstrained. Damage bonus is increased to 60% while below 65% life. If you're always Berserk, you gain damage reduction bonus. It's really good. We have an item that gives us pretty much permanent Berserk. You're in Berserk the entire fight all the time, so you never have to worry. So that's a permanent buff. So I looked at this one. So you could use Unbridled Rage, which gives core skills 45% damage increase, which is fine, but we are always Berserk. So why not take 60% increased damage, right? So that seems like the right play. I will say as well, there seems to be a bug here. So you see here, increased by 60%. If you have, if you want to change this build up, if you have this, Shroud of False Death, this gives +1 to all passives. And I've noticed on here, if you go on your skill tree, and then you go down here, this goes to 95% damage increase. I don't know if that's a bug, but that seems to count as a passive. You see item contribution 1? It seems to count that as a passive and push that number up. So yeah, really strange. So if you want to try that does seem like a damage boost. Not sure if it's intended though. But yeah, that's the skill tree. The only other thing on here is we take the on the expertise. I think two-handed mace expertise works best. Lucky hit, we go a lot on lucky hit in this build. 10% chance to gain fury, doubled when berserking, and increased crit strike damage when berserking. Absolutely huge. I think that's quite a good one to have. But yeah, that's how I would run it. Okay, on the mercenaries, on the hired mercenary, I think one of the best in the game right now is Viana. You get this for movement speed. You go down to here, you get attack speed, and at the bottom, you get 5% more attack speed. So overall, this alone gives you like 15% more attack speed total. Now, I think on release, there were some funky problems of, does Whirlwind and attack speed balance? Does it scale? And I'm pretty sure, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure as of last season, they fixed it so that Whirlwind now works faster the more attack speed you have. So you're getting more procs, you're spending more fury, which triggers our Dust Devils, and you're proccing more Dust Devils. So I'm pretty sure there's a win-win. Fairly certain on that. Okay, the other one we take at the bottom, I go for Reinforcement, I go for Rahia, and I go for Provoke. This gives you damage reduction just because you kind of need it. You're standing in the middle, we suck everyone into us, and we whirlwind around them, and we're just taking all that damage. Even though we've got Fortify, the damage reduction does help quite a lot. And I just go for whenever you cast Whirlwind. So as you hit it, as they get in there, you get that damage reduction. But you can also just go for whenever you cast a skill. That works just as fine when you cast any skill in combat. But yeah, that's how I'd play it. You're pretty much always in the middle of them anyway. But yeah, that's what I do with the mercenaries. Okay, let's go through the gear, the stats, the tempering, all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to use the mobilitics build I've made to show that because you can just see all of the items much easier like this. I've got a leveling build on here, which I've already shown before, which uses double swing. This is really good for early game. But once you get to end game, I would suggest switching over to this whirlwind version, which we're talking about today. So on this, let's go through the gear. For the helmet, Air of Perdition. This is just massive damage, 60% damage boost, movement speed, lucky hit, and crit. Not only that, but +2 to core. It's just every single part of this is perfect for this build, pretty much, except maybe the movement speed. Everything else is perfect. On the chest piece, Rage of Haragath. Now this is where all of our crazy high cooldown speed comes from. So you get damage reduction from bleeding enemies. Because of Whirlwind, that's everyone. Life, crit, fine. We don't really do damage over time. That's not important. But the lucky hit here, inflicted bleeding on an enemy has up to a 20 to 60% chance to reduce the cooldown of your skills by 1 second. The beauty of this is if you can get a good roll, if you can get like a 60%, 55% plus roll, you've seen in the clip at the start how fast the cooldowns are coming back. This is how we get to just throw out all of our skills constantly and generate so many Dust Devils. So this is crucial to making the build work. And then because we're going so hard on Lucky Hit, the Fists of Fate work really well. If you can get a a greater affix on the lucky hit. I think it starts at like 77% or something. I'm not sure. Around 70%. And by masterworking it, it goes well over 100%. So this is really good for getting high lucky hit chance. On top of that, attack speed, crit, really, really good. You get the boost of random damage. It's just a really good one. Focus on the lucky hit here, and you'll proc this so much. My gear is not great in the video, and you can see how fast the cooldowns come back. On the bottom, we go for Ariat's Bearing. Ancients you summon are empowered. Basically, your ancients that you summon will drop an earthquake and summon dust devils. That on its own isn't great, but you're getting ultimate damage, Call of the Ancients cooldown reduction, and resistance to all elements, which are really, and life, which is really, really good. Just so much value on one item. That combined with our cooldown reduction means that you're pressing this so much. I think on its own, this skill isn't that good, but when you can cast it every like 5 to 10 seconds, it's incredible. Okay, then we'll go through the boots. I went for aspect of grasping whirlwind. When you see as you jump into a pack, as you get into a pack and you cast whirlwind, everything just gets sucked in. Perfect. That means they're sucked into the earthquake that you plant as soon as you get there. Really, really, really good. And it just helps keep things clustered. Means that when these dust devils get released, they're hitting everything instantly. We'll go through the other side as well. Aspect of fierce winds on the neck creates 3 dust devils. And the thing here, your dust devils are 25% bigger and deal increased damage for every 1% of their size. The reason that's so good on the amulet is because you can temper certain items. Like I'll show you, you can see the tempering here, the utility tempering. You can increase your dust devil size. That's capped at 100%. So if you can get your dust devil size to 100%, that's 100% more damage. Absolutely phenomenal. Ring of Starless Skies, probably the best ring in the game, probably one of the best mythics in the game. Attack speed, crit, lucky hit, core skills, and damage increase. Could you want anything else on a ring? Probably not. Probably tempering. Let's temper it maybe. But it's the perfect ring for this build. Then an aspect of anger management. While above 55 fury, you're berserk but lose 2 fury per second. Because of how whirlwind works, we don't lose any fury because we generate fury while whirlwinding. They kind of counteract each other, meaning we're just permanently berserk. So permanent damage boost. On the weapons, we go for aspect of earthquakes. Ground stomp creates an earthquake, damaging enemies. While standing in earthquakes, you deal more damage. Perfect. We take Dust Devil's aspect. Whirlwind leaves behind Dust Devils, another source of generating Dust Devils. And then Devilish, after generating 100 Fury, you generate Dust Devils. So that's it. And then we take the final one is, I don't know how to say this, Ramalabla Magnum Opus. Crit, strength, resource, overpower. Skills using this weapon deal increased damage per point of fury you have, but you lose 10 fury per second. Now, having more fury, we've got a lot of things that give us max fury. We took a little bit in the skill tree as well. And then we have a lot of things that boost that. So as you're whirlwinding around, you're pretty much going to be at constant max fury. It's never going to go down. And then we have, is it this one? Challenging? No. Rallying. Sorry. Rallying also gives you resource generation. You never drop below like, half fury. So you don't have to worry about dropping fury. So you get the pure damage increase with no downside. So yeah, that's the gear I would run. And then onto tempering and masterworking. We can't do a lot because a lot of our gear is unique and mythic. But I've tried to highlight on here the things you'd be looking to masterwork. So hopefully that does help. But the stats you want to be looking for on our weapons, you want to be going for things like strength and crit damage. We have pretty much like max crit strike chance. So we're going to be critting like almost every attack. So crit damage works really well. Life helps for Fortify. Strength scales really, really well. You can take on the boots. Ranks to Warcry is massive. That's a huge damage boost. So try and find a great graphics on that. If you can't, try and go to the Occultist and roll it if you've got the gold. Ranks to counteroffensive and attack speed and pit fighter work really well on the amulet. Try and roll for counteroffensive if you're feeling lucky. Try and find it. Try and get it in the Undercity. It's a massive damage boost. And then crit strike damage, attack speed, all that stuff works really, really well. Okay, the main thing we want to be talking about though is tempering. There is not much we can temper, so it's important to make sure every single temper lands well. And here's what you're going for. First is Dust Devil size. You want to hit 100% Dust Devil size, or as close to it as possible. So everywhere you can get utility, because you want to try and hit 100%. And because we're so unique heavy, it's hard to do that. So try and get 100% Dust Devil size. If you have to masterwork it, fine. If your roll is low, try and masterwork it to get it up. So as you masterwork your gear, that number does go up. You want to go as close to 100% as possible. The other things you want to get is Dust Devil damage. You can see on offensive there. Down here again, Dust Devil damage. Down here, we go for Dust Devil size on the boots. And then on the weapons, Dust Devil damage and chance for Dust Devil to cast twice. That's what I'd be looking for. They're the main things I'd be aiming for in this build, because that's where most of our damage is coming from. But yeah, that's everything really. I've got more information, like if you want to read up on certain things as well. But yeah, that's everything gear related. On the rune words, I would keep it quite simple. I'd go for cast a skill with a cooldown, which we're doing a lot of, and then evokes Earthquake. So every time we use our cooldowns, we drop Earthquakes, which is massive damage bonus. And then over here, cast an ultimate, which will literally be every few seconds, and you get a lot of offering for doing it. I'd go for reduced cooldowns, so they kind of sync really well together. On the gear, on the gems, I'd go for crit strike damage on your weapons. I'd go for rubies for strength in your armor, and then I'd just go for skulls for armor in your accessories. However, in your jewelry. However, one thing I will say is try and put your runes in your weapons. The 60 strength scales a lot better than the 72% crit. So I would try and put these runes in your two two-handed weapons, so that you can fill your gear, your armor, with 60 strength. Okay, now let's talk Paragon Board. And I gotta say, a lot of Barbarian builds, I find the Paragon Board a little bit boring. But on this one, it feels good. Hitting certain nodes on this build just feels incredible, and you're actually torn between some choices. So I'll talk about all that. And I'll link this, that is all linked down below if you want to follow it. If you find it easier just following, a guide like this, fine, but I'll talk through it as well. So as we go through the main board, we take a lot of stuff here. In the middle, we take Twister. For every 5 strength, increased Dust Devil damage plus 78%. Now we take 105 strength here, because look how many strength nodes there are. You can just take so many. So you want to get quite a lot of strength nodes here. Then as you leave, you want to get damage to close enemies, damage to elites. Moving into the next board, we go for Warbringer. Flip it this way and head straight up and grab the node. For every 75 fury you spend, increase gain your max life as Fortify. And we've seen how much good stuff comes from having Fortify, damage reduction, increased damage. So that's really good. Then you can go up here, you can get Max Fury, which gives us a damage boost, because we get increased damage based on how much Fury we have. So increasing our Max Fury is really good. You can get it here and you can get it down here. So get those 2 nodes. And then we go up to here and we drop the Rumble Glyph. For every 5 strength, your Earthquakes deal more damage, and you deal increased damage to bosses and enemies for each active Earthquake. So this is massive. So take all the stuff around there. Again, I've got that to 110 out of 40. So that's a massive damage increase. Leaving out the next side, we go for Force of Nature. We roll through the Earthquake duration, Dust Devil size. We go down into here and we drop the Martial. Now, Martial doesn't sound good, but it gives a bonus to all magic nodes. And on this board, the magic nodes are Dust Devil damage and damage to close enemies. And because we're sucking the enemies in, everything's a close enemy. So yeah, this works really, really well. That's how I would go with there. I'd go up and get the legendary. Your Earthquakes have a chance to spawn a Dust Devil. Earthquake damage is increased based on your close enemy bonus. So really, really good, and works well with the nodes down here. As you leave, get more Earthquake damage, which is massive. Next board, we go for Carnage. And on the Carnage, we have lots of damage while berserking. So you can get the damage while berserking here. You can head up and you can drop the Ire Glyph. Every 5 strength gives you increased damage while berserking. We're berserking constantly. We're never not berserking. If we're swinging our weapon, we're berserking. So grab that. Grab the nodes as well for increased berserking damage, and try and get as many strength nodes as you can. Head up to here, damage reduction from close enemies, and you can get the while berserking, crit strikes increase your attack speed up to 16%. Massive. And then finally, you have a choice. I started with the flawless techniques. I think that's attack speed or crit. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that's a pretty good board. Flawless techniques is a pretty good board. I recently switched over to Blood Rage because it's just really, really good. It's really good. Head down here and you want to grab the rare nodes, increase damage to bleeding enemies and damage while berserking. The beauty of this is, as long as we're swinging with Whirlwind, we're berserking and enemies take bleed damage. So all of these are active all the time. Head into the middle and take the Wrath. For every 5 decks, you deal increased crit damage, which is huge. Grab the nodes around it, damage while berserking, damage to bleeding, and go up around here and get the legendary node. Defeating a bleeding enemy has a 10% chance to grant berserking. That's fine, don't worry about that. But your damage is increased by 10% of your damage while berserking bonus up to a maximum of 30, which you will hit. So it's a massive damage boost all the time. And then finally, you can get some damage reduction from bleeding enemies. And that is how I would run the Paragon board. That's it really. I've left some points, but you know, who's at 310? If you are, let me know. But who's at 310? But yeah, that's everything. This is all linked down below. This is the build. This is everything. This is the whole build. Yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. But this is everything. I'm gonna try and push this further. I don't see this hitting 150. This isn't Spiritborn. I don't see this going crazy. I've got like 1 great graphics gear for the most part, 8 out of 12 on most of my gear, and it's burning through Torment 4. You can easily push this. I imagine you can get this to like 100 in the pit. Fine. I can't see that being an issue with like 2-3 great graphics gear, good rolls, good uniques, but I don't see this going crazy. There is a limit on how far you can push this because we're relying on crit, we're relying on Dust Devils. We're not, you know, things like the Mighty Throw build, which use Overpower, that can scale a lot higher. Whereas I'd say this has more of a ceiling, but it's much more fun in my opinion. I've been having a ton of fun with it. I'm going to keep playing this for a while, but yeah, that's the build. If you like this style of build guide, if you find this useful, do let me know in the comments. Do consider subscribing to the channel. I make a ton of builds and guides for Diablo and other games, RPGs, MMOs. But I'll stop rambling. Thank you for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next one.